Amara lived in a small, dusty village at the edge of rolling hills. The sun rose each morning, casting golden light on the narrow streets and small clay houses. She shared a tiny home with her father, Dumo, and her younger brother, Kalu. Life in the village was quiet but hard. Most families struggled to earn a living, but Amara's family seemed to face extra difficulties. People in the village often whispered about them. They ignored Amara and Kalu and treated them as though they were less important than others. The reason, Amara would later learn, was a long-held secret kept by her father. Dumo, her father, had always been a serious man. He worked hard every day, tending a small garden behind their home and occasionally helping villagers with repairs or carrying heavy loads. But he had a secret that Amara and Kalu did not know. Years ago, Dumo had lied. He had told the village that his children had no noble blood, that their family was ordinary, even though the truth was very different. Amara's mother had passed away when she was very young, leaving Dumo with the responsibility of raising his children alone. He had made the lie to protect them from danger, from people who might have wanted to harm them for their noble ancestry. Amara grew up hearing stories about noble families in nearby towns and cities. She knew that some families had wealth, influence, and respect, and she often wondered why her family had so little. She watched the children of those families attend schools with fine teachers and go to parties, wearing bright clothes, while she wore plain dresses and helped her father with chores. Kalu, her younger brother, often asked why they couldn't have more, why they were treated differently, but Amara would smile at him and say, "We have each other, and that is what matters." She tried to shield him from the harshness of the village. Every morning Amara woke early. She helped her father with the garden, fetching water from the village well and pulling weeds from the soil. She made breakfast for Kalu and helped him get ready for school. Her days were long, filled with work, but she never complained. She had learned to be patient, to accept what life gave her, and to do her best with the little they had. Even when villagers turned away or ignored her, she remained kind. She greeted neighbors politely, helped people carry heavy loads, and sometimes even shared a little of the food her family had, though it was never much. Despite the difficulties, Amara had a curious mind. At night, when Kalu was asleep, she would light a small candle and read the few books she had collected over the years. She loved stories about courage, kindness, and adventure. She dreamed of a life beyond the village, a life where she could use her intelligence and heart to do more than just survive. Sometimes she would imagine herself in the halls of a palace, wearing fine clothes and speaking to people who respected her. Those moments of daydreaming gave her hope, though she never shared them with her father, who was strict about keeping their heads low and avoiding attention. Kalu, though small and sometimes timid, looked up to Amara. He watched her work tirelessly and admired her strength. "Amara," he would say, "why are people so mean to us?" She would kneel beside him, brushing the dust from his clothes, and say, "Some people do not understand, Kalu. That is why we must be kind even if they are not. One day they will see who we really are." Kalu would nod, but his small eyes often filled with tears. Amara hugged him tightly, wishing she could protect him from all the pain and ignorance in the world. Life in the village was often lonely. Amara had few friends as the other girls avoided her and her brother. They called her family names and sometimes played tricks to make her feel unwelcome. But Amara never retaliated. She believed that kindness was stronger than anger and that one day her true worth would be recognized. Each day she worked harder, learning new skills from the elders, helping her father in the garden, and making sure Kalu stayed safe and fed. Dumo, though loving, carried a heavy heart. He had made the lie about their noble blood for reasons he did not fully explain to his children. He worried constantly that someone might discover the truth too soon, or that people would try to take advantage of his family. He did not want Amara and Kalu to suffer because of their ancestry, but ironically, the lie itself caused its own kind of suffering. He saw how the village treated them, how doors were closed to them, how whispers followed them, and he felt guilt, but he could not undo the past. All he could do was guide them and hope that they would find happiness in spite of the hardships. Amara, unaware of the full truth, sometimes questioned why life was so unfair. She wondered why people judged them without knowing them and why opportunity seemed so distant. Yet even in those moments she never lost her spirit. She found joy in small things: the way Kalu laughed when she told him stories, the smell of fresh soil in the garden, the sound of birds singing at dawn. Those simple pleasures reminded her that life had beauty, even if it was hidden beneath struggle. One evening after a long day of work, Amara and Kalu sat outside their small home. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Kalu leaned against his sister and whispered, "Amara, do you think things will ever get better?" She smiled, brushing his hair from his forehead. Yes, Kalu. Things will get better. We must be patient and one day people will see our true value. Kalu smiled faintly, reassured by her words. Amara knew that hope was sometimes the only thing that kept them going. She had faith that their patience and goodness would lead to a brighter future. Even in the quiet nights, Amara reflected on her father's words and actions. She understood that Dumo had lied to protect them, even if it meant that they suffered. She did not resent him. Instead, she felt a mixture of compassion and gratitude. Her father had done his best in a difficult world. She resolved to work hard, stay kind and care for Kalu, knowing that one day the truth of their family's lineage would bring change. Amara continued to rise each morning with determination. She carried water, worked in the garden, prepared food and ensured that Kalu went to school. She greeted neighbors politely and never allowed their whispers or looks of disdain to weaken her spirit. In her heart, she nurtured hope and courage, believing that one day her family's honor and happiness would be restored. And so, Amara's days passed in quiet struggle, filled with work, love, and the hidden dream of a better life. She stayed kind and patient, never knowing that one day her hidden noble heritage would be revealed, changing everything for her, her brother, and even the village that had underestimated them. She did not know that her strength and goodness would one day catch the attention of someone who could see her true worth. In this way, life moved forward in the small village. Amara continued her careful, kind, and patient routine, working for her family, protecting her brother, and dreaming of a future that felt almost impossible. Yet even in the struggle, she found joy in simple moments. Kalu's laughter, the sound of birds, the warmth of her father's hand, and the promise of hope that filled her heart. Though life seemed unfair, she never gave up. She never lost her courage. And in her quiet, patient way, she prepared herself for the moment when the truth about her family. Amara woke early each morning before the sun had fully risen. She stretched and stepped quietly into the cool, dusty air outside their small home. Her younger brother, Kalu, was still asleep, curled under a worn blanket. Their father, Dumo, was already in the garden, tending the vegetables and small herbs that sustained the family. Life had always been hard, but it had grown even harder as Kalu grew older. The villagers often whispered behind their backs, and at school, Kalu faced teasing from other children. He was small for his age, and the taunts made him shy and nervous. Amara felt a heavy weight in her heart each time she saw her brother return home upset or with dirty clothes from running away from bullies. She wanted to protect him, yet she knew that the world would not change overnight. Amara prepared breakfast quickly, lighting a small fire and placing a pot of porridge over it. She stirred it carefully, adding a little honey that Dumo had managed to save from last week's market visit. The smell of warm porridge filled the tiny home, and soon Kalu stirred from his sleep. He rubbed his eyes and looked at his sister with a faint smile. "Morning, Amara," he whispered, his voice hoarse from sleep. Amara smiled back, her heart aching at the sight of him so young and already burdened by life. "Good morning, Kalu," she said softly. "Eat quickly and then we'll get ready for the day." School was not easy for Kalu. The other children would tease him, calling him names and laughing at his clothes. He sometimes returned home crying, and Amara had to comfort him. "It's okay," she said, brushing the tears from his face. "You are stronger than they think. Don't let them make you small. One day they will see your heart and your courage." Kalu listened quietly, trusting her words, though he often wished life could be simpler. Amara wished the same. She understood that her father's lie about their noble blood had caused this suffering, though she did not yet know all the reasons. Still, she resolved to protect her brother and keep their family strong. After sending Kalu to school, Amara turned to the day's chores. She swept the small courtyard, collected water from the village well, and carried it back in clay pots balanced carefully on her head. She tended the garden alongside Dumo, pulling weeds, watering plants, and checking for pests that could ruin their small crop. The work was exhausting, but Amara did it with patience. Each task, no matter how small, mattered. The vegetables fed her family, and the effort she put in was a quiet act of love. Sometimes she would pause and notice the sun rising fully over the hills, the way the light touched the earth, and she would feel a small spark of hope in her chest. Villagers often watched Amara and Kalu as they worked. Some whispered about them, questioning why Dumo's children did not act like the others, why they were so quiet, or why their clothes were so plain. Amara could hear the faint murmur of voices as she passed, but she never reacted with anger. She had learned long ago that responding with kindness was stronger than arguing or defending herself. She simply kept moving, helping her brother and taking care of her family. The judgment of others did not break her spirit. Even with all the hard work, Amara found time to dream. At night, she lit a small candle and read whatever books she could find. The stories were her escape, her way to imagine a life beyond chores, teasing and whispered comments. She read about brave women, noble families, and adventures in faraway lands. She imagined herself standing tall, respected and valued, helping people and living a life of meaning. These quiet dreams kept her heart alive and reminded her that patience was important. Life had not been kind so far, but she believed it could change if she stayed strong. Kalu often asked questions about their life. "Why are people so mean to us?" he asked one afternoon while they sat under the shade of a tree after returning from the well. Amara held his small hands in hers and said, "Some people do not understand. They see only what is outside, not what is inside. But we will be patient, Kalu. One day people will see the truth about who we are, and then their words will not matter." Kalu listened, feeling comforted by her confidence, though his heart still ached at the unfairness. Amara's words were not magic, but they gave him hope, a hope that kept him moving forward through each difficult day. Sometimes, Amara had to intervene when the villagers' judgment became more direct. A woman once shouted at her for collecting water near the market, claiming that her family was not worthy of using that well. Amara bowed her head politely and said nothing, carrying her jars carefully and leaving the area. Inside, her heart burned with frustration, but she did not retaliate. She knew that anger would not change the world. Her patience, strength and kindness would, over time, shape the future for her and Kalu. Amara's father, Dumo, watched her closely. He admired her patience and courage, though he worried that life had been too hard for her. He often said to himself, "She is stronger than I ever was at her age." But he also carried guilt. His lie about their noble blood had caused hardship, though his intentions had been to protect them. The irony of suffering caused by protection was never lost on him. Yet, seeing Amara rise each day with care, strength and patience gave him hope that perhaps his family could endure anything, even the judgment and cruelty of the villagers. As the days went on, Amara continued to work tirelessly. She prepared food, cleaned their home, tended the garden, and helped Kalu with school lessons. Every evening she encouraged her brother to study and read, even if only by the candlelight, showing him that knowledge was a tool they could use to rise above their circumstances. Kalu, inspired by her determination, tried his best, even when the other children laughed at him or teased him. He learned resilience from Amara's example, understanding that life's hardships were tests of character, not measures of worth. Despite the constant challenges, Amara never lost hope. She reminded herself each day that the struggles were temporary, that patience and kindness could withstand even the harshest judgment. She imagined a future where she and Kalu could be proud of who they were, where people would see their true value, and where her family could live without whispers or cruelty shadowing their lives. Her determination became a quiet strength, one that guided every step she took, every chore she completed, and every decision she made for her brother's well-being. Even in the quiet moments of night, Amara reflected on the injustice they faced. She remembered times when villagers had refused to help her family, times when Kalu had come home with tears, and times when opportunities had slipped through their fingers. Yet she never gave in to despair. She whispered to herself, "One day everything will change. One day we will be seen for who we truly are." These words became a mantra, a source of courage that gave her strength to face each new day with determination and grace. Through it all, Amara remained kind to everyone she met. She greeted neighbors politely, helped strangers when she could, and carried herself with quiet dignity. Though people did not recognize her worth, she knew it was there. The day Prince Nuru arrived in the village began like any other, with the golden sun spilling over the hills and lighting up the narrow dirt roads. Villagers stirred early, cleaning their homes, arranging flowers, and preparing small gifts to show respect. The prince was known throughout the land for his wisdom and kindness, and his visit caused a quiet excitement in the normally calm village. People hurried to tidy their yards, dress in their best clothes, and line the streets for his arrival. Amara, her younger brother Kalu at her side, woke before dawn to help with preparations. Though they were not wealthy, she wanted to ensure that everything looked proper and respectful. Amara carried baskets of fresh fruits and vegetables, carefully selecting only the best. She arranged them on mats near the center of the village square. The smell of ripe bananas, sweet mangoes, and fresh yams filled the air, blending with the scent of flowers from small pots that villagers had brought as offerings. Kalu watched his sister in awe as she moved gracefully, giving instructions to other children who helped. Though he was young, he understood that Amara had a quiet confidence that everyone respected, even if the villagers sometimes whispered about their family. When Prince Nuru entered the village, he rode a simple horse, not an extravagant carriage. His presence was calm, almost gentle, and the villagers could not help but notice his kind eyes. He greeted the people politely, bowing slightly and nodding as he passed. Many villagers rushed to offer him gifts or bow deeply, but Amara stood with Kalu quietly to the side, holding a small basket of fruits. She did not bow too low or speak loudly, but she greeted him politely. "Welcome to our village, Your Highness," she said in a soft, clear voice. Her words were calm and sincere, and the prince immediately noticed her. Prince Nuru studied her carefully. Her posture was straight, her eyes clear, and her smile gentle. Unlike some who sought to impress him with loud gestures or expensive gifts, Amara seemed composed and kind. She treated him with respect without fear, yet without overdoing her manners. The prince could sense intelligence in her calm demeanor, and he noticed the way she cared for Kalu, guiding him and encouraging him to help. There was something about Amara that felt different from anyone he had met before. As he walked through the village, Nuru observed the preparations and the people he passed. He noticed the baskets of fruits, the mats of vegetables, and the children running errands. But his attention kept returning to Amara. He watched as she spoke to elders, listened politely to their instructions, and encouraged the younger children. She moved gracefully through the crowd, not trying to draw attention, yet naturally standing out. The prince whispered to one of his aides, "Who is that girl? She carries herself differently from everyone else here." Amara noticed that the prince's eyes kept returning to her, but she did not let it distract her from her duties. She guided Kalu to help carry water for the village elders, showing him which buckets were heaviest and which could be carried safely. She arranged mats and baskets carefully, making sure nothing looked out of place. At one point, a small child tripped near the center of the square. Amara rushed forward, helping him to his feet and comforting him, while the prince watched with interest. He noticed the way she handled the situation with kindness and patience, without anger or fear. Throughout the day, Prince Nuru found himself speaking to Amara more than anyone else. He asked her questions about her family, her daily life, and her responsibilities. She answered honestly, never exaggerating or pretending to be someone she was not. "I help my father in the garden," she said. "I make sure my brother gets to school and that our home is tidy. That is all I can do, and it is enough for us." The prince nodded, impressed by her humility and sense of duty. There was a quiet strength in her words that made him curious to learn more about her family. Amara also showed intelligence in small ways. When the prince asked questions about the crops and the soil, she explained what they grew, how they cared for the plants, and how the seasons affected their harvest. She spoke confidently, clearly knowing what she was doing. Nuru admired her wisdom, recognizing that she was not only kind but also knowledgeable. He realized that her family, though treated poorly by others in the village, had been guided by someone with sharp intelligence and strong moral character. Even as the day went on, Amara remained humble. She did not seek praise, though she received it quietly from the prince's aides, who whispered about her diligence and composure. Kalu followed her closely, carrying small items and learning from her example. The prince watched the siblings together, noticing the bond between them. Amara's patience with her brother, her gentle corrections, and her encouragement made it clear that she was nurturing, caring, and responsible. Nuru admired this more than any fine gift or elaborate display. By afternoon, the village square was bustling with activity. Villagers had brought small offerings, songs were sung, and dances were performed. Amara helped wherever she could, ensuring that everyone had water, that the children knew their places, and that the elders were comfortable. Throughout it all, the prince's gaze returned to her again and again. He could not help but notice her grace under pressure, her calm energy, and the respect she naturally commanded without demanding it. During a quiet moment, Nuru walked beside Amara and asked, "Tell me about your family. What do you do when no one is watching?" Amara hesitated slightly, unsure what to say. "We work hard, Your Highness," she replied softly. "We care for each other and we try to do what is right, even when others do not notice. That is all." Her honesty struck the prince. He felt that she had a heart that valued integrity, not recognition. In that moment he understood why she stood out among the villagers. She carried herself not for praise, but because it was the right thing to do. As the sun began to lower in the sky, Nuru realized he wanted to know more about Amara's family. "I would like to meet your father," he said. "And your brother. There is something special here that I cannot ignore." Amara's heart fluttered with a mixture of pride and nervousness. She had never imagined a prince taking such an interest in her family. Though she had faced suffering and judgment her entire life, This day brought a glimmer of hope that perhaps things could change. Amara led the prince through the small home, showing him the modest rooms and the little garden her father tended. Dumo welcomed him politely, though he was unsure why a prince would pay such attention to them. Kalu stayed close to Amara, watching the prince with wide eyes. Nuru observed their simple home and the effort the family put into maintaining it. He could see the love and care that connected them, and he began to understand that this family, though overlooked by the village, carried nobility in their hearts. By the end of the day, Prince Nuru was convinced that Amara and her family were extraordinary. He admired Amara's intelligence, her patience, and her strength. He had visited many villages before, but none had captured his attention in the same way. He realized that her kindness and dignity were rare qualities, and he wanted to learn more about her story and the family she protected so diligently. That evening, as the villagers celebrated, the prince lingered near Amara. He spoke quietly to her, asking more questions about her daily life and how she managed to care for her brother while helping the community. Amara answered with humility, yet the prince could sense her confidence and quiet wisdom. Her resilience shone through, and he admired her more with each passing moment. He knew that her life had not been easy and that the suffering she endured had made her strong and wise beyond her years. By the time the sun set, Prince Nuru had made up his mind. He would not leave the village without learning the full story of Amara and her family. He saw in her a rare combination of intelligence, strength, and kindness. He saw a young woman who could face hardships without losing her heart and who could inspire those around her with patience and courage. That day, a seed of curiosity and respect was planted in the prince's heart, one that would grow into admiration and, eventually, a deep connection with Amara and her family. Through it all, Amara remained humble. She did not realize the impression she had made. She was simply doing what she had always done, helping her family, caring for Kalu, and showing kindness to others. Yet her quiet strength had caught the attention of someone who could see her true worth. The prince had noticed not only her appearance, but her heart, her mind, and her courage. In his eyes, Amara had already begun to shine, and he was determined to discover the story behind her patience, her suffering, and her resilience. As night fell, Amara finally allowed herself to rest. She sat beside Kalu and whispered, "Today was a good day, wasn't it?" Kalu nodded, his eyes wide and hopeful. Little did she know that the events of this day would mark the beginning of a life-changing journey, one that would bring truth, recognition, and new possibilities into their family's world. The prince's interest in her and her family had opened a door that had long been closed, and in time, it would lead to changes she had never imagined. The visit of Prince Nuru was more than a simple royal journey, it was the start of something that would forever alter the course of Amara's life. His curiosity, respect, and admiration for her character promised a future where her patience, kindness, and courage would finally be recognized. And although Amara did not know it yet, the hardships she and Kalu endured were preparing them for a new chapter, one filled with hope, respect, and opportunities that had once seemed impossible. The morning after Prince Nuru's visit, the village seemed quieter than usual. People were still talking about the prince, his kindness, and the way he had noticed Amara. But there was a tension in the air as well, an unspoken curiosity that swept through the streets like a gentle wind. Dumo, Amara's father, felt the weight of it all. He had lived with the secret for many years, hiding the truth about his children's noble heritage. Now he knew the moment of revelation had come, and he could no longer postpone it. He had protected Amara and Kalu for so long, but he realized that honesty was needed if they were to live without the shadows of whispers and suspicion. That afternoon, Prince Nuru returned. He had come not just to visit the village, but to learn more about the girl who had captured his attention. Amara greeted him politely, and Kalu peeked out from behind her, curious but shy. The prince smiled at them both and gestured toward Dumo. "Sir," he said, "I wish to know the true story of this family. I sense there is more than meets the eye." Dumo's heart raced. He had long feared this question, yet he knew he could no longer keep the secret. Taking a deep breath, he nodded and invited the prince to sit with him beneath a large tree in the village square. Amara and Kalu watched silently, sensing that something important was about to happen. Dumo's hands shook slightly as he spoke, but his voice was steady. "Years ago," he began, "I made a choice to protect my children. I told the village that we were ordinary, that we had no noble blood. The truth is, Amara and Kalu are from a noble line. My ancestors served the kingdom with honor, and had this truth been known, people might have tried to harm my family." He paused, glancing at Amara. Her eyes were wide, her heart beating fast. She had suspected that her father had hidden something, but she had never imagined the full truth. Prince Nuru listened carefully, nodding. He asked questions gently, learning about the family's history, the noble line they came from, and the reasons Dumo had concealed the truth. Each answer confirmed what the prince had suspected. Amara's patience, kindness, and intelligence were not just personal virtues. They were qualities of a noble family. The prince's respect for Dumo grew. He understood the father's difficult choice and admired the care he had shown in raising his children in spite of hardships. Word of the revelation spread quickly through the village. At first there was disbelief. People whispered to one another, shocked that the family they had ignored and judged for so long had such an important lineage. They remembered how Dumo had always been humble, how Amara had helped others quietly, and how Kalu had shown resilience despite teasing and hardship. Suddenly the village saw the family in a new light. Respect replaced suspicion and admiration began to grow. Villagers came to greet Amara and Kalu, bowing slightly and thanking them for their kindness and strength. Amara felt a mixture of emotions. Relief washed over her first. She had finally learned why life had been so difficult and why doors had always seemed closed to her family. Anger and frustration arose briefly, thinking of the years of misunderstanding and whispers, but they faded quickly. Instead, she felt gratitude for her father's intentions. He had lied not out of selfishness but out of love, to protect her and Kalu from dangers she had not yet understood. Amara realized that the hardships they had faced had shaped her, teaching patience, resilience, and kindness. Kalu, sitting beside her, could hardly believe what he was hearing. "Amara," he whispered, "we're really from a noble family?" Amara nodded, smiling. She placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "Yes, Kalu. That is why we have been strong even when life seemed unfair. Now people will see who we truly are." Kalu's eyes sparkled with hope and excitement. He could imagine a new life, one where he and his sister were treated with respect, and where their family's name carried honor instead of whispers. Prince Nuru, observing them, felt admiration grow in his heart. He had come to the village curious about a girl who showed intelligence and kindness, and now he understood the source of her strength. Amara's nobility was not just in her blood but in her actions, in her courage through suffering, and in the way she treated others. Nuru saw a young woman ready for responsibility, someone who could face life's challenges with dignity and grace. He realized that Amara's past suffering had prepared her for a future of leadership and respect. As the villagers gathered to hear the truth, many approached Dumo to apologize for misjudging his family. Others bowed to Amara and Kalu, expressing admiration for their resilience. Amara felt a sense of peace she had never known. The long years of hardship, the teasing, and the exclusion from village life suddenly seemed lighter. The truth had brought not only recognition but also a sense of belonging. For the first time, Amara felt that she and her brother could live openly, without shame or fear of gossip. Dumo too felt relief. He had carried the secret for so long that it had become a burden on his shoulders. Now that it was revealed, he could finally share his pride openly. He spoke to the villagers about his children's achievements, their hard work, and the noble qualities they possessed. He reminded them that Amara and Kalu had remained kind and patient through years of misunderstanding, a testament to their character and their true lineage. The villagers listened, their eyes wide with respect and wonder. Amara's mind raced as she considered the future. She thought about the prince, who had recognized her character, and about the villagers, who were beginning to see her family in a new light. She realized that the suffering of the past had taught her lessons she could never have learned in comfort. Patience, humility, resilience, and kindness had become her natural strengths. The hardships she endured were now stepping stones, preparing her for the responsibilities and opportunities that lay ahead. Kalu too was transformed by the revelation. He felt proud to be part of a family that carried noble blood. He saw that the teasing he had endured was temporary and meaningless in the face of truth. He vowed to be brave like his sister, to honor their family's history, and to live with courage and integrity. Amara smiled at him, knowing that together they could face anything. As the sun began to set, Prince Nuru spoke to Amara privately. "Your strength, intelligence, and kindness are remarkable," he said. "Your family's history is clear now, and the village will respect you. But more than that, you carry nobility in your heart, and that is rare." Amara blushed, unsure how to respond. She had lived a life of quiet service and humility, never expecting recognition, yet here was someone who truly saw her worth. The revelation did more than restore respect for the family, it brought hope. Amara now understood that her father's lie, though painful, had protected them until the right moment. It had shielded them from danger, and it had also allowed them to grow strong in ways that money or power could never have taught. The suffering they endured was no longer meaningless. It had shaped them, prepared them, and made them ready for the future. The villagers gradually accepted the truth. People who had ignored or judged Amara and Kalu began to seek their guidance, advice, or help. They came to see Amara as a young woman of wisdom and character, someone worthy of respect. Kalu found new friends at school who admired his courage and intelligence. The family no longer lived under whispers of doubt or judgment. Life, though still simple, had become brighter and filled with promise. Amara, reflecting on the day, realized something important. She had spent years working hard, staying patient, and treating others with kindness. She had endured suffering quietly, protecting her brother and helping her father. Now the truth had been revealed, and her efforts were recognized. She understood that patience, integrity, and courage would always matter more than wealth or appearances. Her heart swelled with pride, not arrogance, but a quiet, steady pride in who she was and what she had endured. That night, as the family gathered under the stars, Dumo spoke softly to Amara and Kalu. "I am proud of you both," he said. "The world did not see our truth before, but you endured with strength and kindness. Now your true worth is known." Amara hugged her father tightly, feeling relief, gratitude, and hope all at once. Kalu joined them, and together they looked at the stars, imagining a future filled with opportunity and respect. Amara knew that her life would never be the same. The suffering of the past had been difficult, but it had prepared her for a future she could embrace with courage. The truth had brought not only respect and recognition but also freedom. The freedom to live openly, to be proud of her family, and to step confidently into the opportunities ahead. And though she could not yet know everything the future held, she felt ready to face it with patience, kindness, and the quiet strength that had carried her this far. In the glow of the evening, with the village around them buzzing with whispers of awe and respect, Amara finally understood why life had been so hard. Every challenge, every insult, every day of struggle had shaped her into someone worthy of recognition. She realized that suffering, when met with courage and patience, could lead to truth, honor, and a future brighter than she had ever imagined. The revelation was not just about noble blood, it was about the noble heart that Amara had shown every day of her life. The days after the revelation of Amara and Kalu's noble heritage were filled with a new sense of hope and opportunity. The village, once skeptical and judgmental, began to treat the family with respect. Villagers who had whispered or avoided them now approached with smiles, seeking guidance, offering greetings, and expressing admiration. Amara walked through the streets with a quiet confidence she had never felt before. Kalu followed closely behind, his head held higher, as he waved to friends who had only recently become aware of the family's true status. Life was slowly changing, and with it came a feeling of peace and possibility. Prince Nuru visited frequently. Each visit deepened his admiration for Amara. He noticed not only her intelligence, her patience, and her kindness, but also the strength that had carried her through years of hardship. He asked her about her dreams, her responsibilities, and her vision for the village and her family. Amara answered honestly, sharing her hopes for Kalu, for the villagers, and for a future where people could be treated with respect and fairness. The prince listened carefully, nodding, impressed by her wisdom and humility. He realized that her strength and character were rare qualities, far beyond her noble blood. Amara and Prince Nuru spent many afternoons walking through the village, speaking with villagers, learning about the daily lives of the people, and discussing ideas to improve the community. He admired how she treated everyone with dignity, no matter their social status. Children ran up to her and laughed, elders greeted her respectfully, and her influence grew quietly but steadily. Nuru often observed how her presence brought calm and order wherever she went. He could see that the hardships she had endured had shaped her into someone who could lead with fairness, courage, and a gentle heart. Kalu's life changed as well. Now recognized as part of a noble family, he found new confidence in himself. Other children at school stopped teasing him and instead admired his courage. He made friends easily and enjoyed learning more than ever before. He no longer felt the weight of whispers and judgment that had shadowed his childhood. Watching her brother flourish filled Amara with joy. She realized that staying strong during the years of suffering had allowed her family to survive, grow, and finally thrive. Her perseverance had borne fruit in ways she had never imagined. Meanwhile, the villagers slowly embraced the family fully. People who had once doubted or judged them now sought Amara's guidance on daily matters, farming advice, and household management. They recognized her as someone of both noble blood and noble character. Her father, Dumo, watched with pride as his daughter's strength was acknowledged by the very people who had ignored them for so long. He understood that his lie, though painful in hindsight, had protected them until the right moment. The suffering they had endured had been temporary, and now the world could see the truth. Amara and Prince Nuru grew close during these days of interaction. Nuru admired her intelligence, her humility, and the warmth she showed toward everyone around her. She, in turn, admired his patience, understanding, and genuine respect for people regardless of status. Their conversations flowed easily, filled with laughter, shared stories, and thoughtful discussions. Nuru found himself drawn to her not just for her noble lineage but for the strength of her heart, the clarity of her mind, and the courage she displayed in the face of adversity. One day as they walked through the village together, Prince Nuru spoke softly. "Amara, I have seen many noble families in my travels, but I have never met anyone like you. Your courage, wisdom, and kindness are rare. I wish to share my life with you, to have you by my side not for your heritage alone, but for the incredible person you are." Amara felt a rush of emotion. Her heart swelled with gratitude, relief, and happiness. She thought of the years of hardship she had endured, the sacrifices she had made, and the resilience that had carried her through. She realized that all of it had led to this moment, a moment of recognition, respect, and love. The village celebrated the union of Amara and Prince Nuru with joy. Decorations adorned the streets, children sang songs, and elders blessed the couple. Kalu ran through the square, laughing with his friends, proud to see his sister honored and respected. The villagers who had once doubted the family, now cheered for them wholeheartedly. Amara's patience, courage, and kindness had transformed not only her family's life but the heart of the entire village. People now understood that true nobility came not just from blood, but from character and strength. On the day of the wedding, Amara looked radiant in simple, elegant attire. She smiled at her father, Dumo, who had tears in his eyes. "You were right," she whispered softly. "Your lie was to protect us and it worked. But your guidance, your support, and your love helped me stay strong." Dumo hugged her tightly, pride and relief mingling in his heart. Kalu stood beside them, grinning from ear to ear, excited to see his sister begin a new life filled with love, respect, and happiness. The wedding was a beautiful and simple affair, reflecting the values Amara had held throughout her life. There were no excessive displays of wealth, no pomp beyond the necessary celebrations, only genuine joy, laughter, and community. Villagers, who had once whispered doubts, now participated fully, offering blessings and congratulations. Prince Nuru stood by Amara's side, his hand in hers, smiling with admiration and love. Together they faced the world, ready to build a life guided by kindness, courage, and respect. Amara thought of the years of struggle she and Kalu had endured. She remembered the teasing at school, the whispers in the village, the long days of work, and the nights spent worrying about the future. Yet all of those challenges had shaped her into the person she was today, someone capable of love, leadership, and strength. She realized that her patience and endurance had brought her here, to a life where she was valued, respected, and deeply loved. Kalu, watching his sister, understood the lesson she had taught him. Life would sometimes be unfair, people would sometimes judge without understanding, but patience, courage, and integrity would always lead to a brighter future. He smiled, knowing that his sister had remained strong through everything, and that now their family could live openly and with pride. Amara's strength had been their shield, and now it was their legacy. Prince Nuru and Amara continued to spend time in the village after the wedding, ensuring that the people were treated fairly and that opportunities were available for all. Together they worked to improve education, provide resources for families, and support the community. The villagers respected them not only because of the prince's status but because of Amara's wisdom, courage, and dedication. She became a beloved figure, admired for her strength, humility, and kindness. Even in moments of quiet, Amara felt gratitude for all that had happened. She had endured years of suffering caused by her father's lie, yet she had remained strong. She had protected her brother, cared for her family, and treated others with respect. In return, she had found love, recognition, and happiness. The hardships of the past now seemed like lessons, guiding her toward a future filled with hope and fulfillment. As night fell over the village and the palace, Amara and Prince Nuru walked together beneath the stars. Hand in hand, they spoke of dreams, hopes, and the life they would build together. Kalu ran ahead, laughing with friends who had become like family. The village was alive with celebration, but in the quiet moments, Amara reflected on how far they had come. She realized that patience, integrity, and kindness had carried her through even the darkest times. Her father, Dumo, looked on with pride. His lie had caused suffering, yes, but it had also protected them and kept them strong until the right moment. Seeing Amara married to Prince Nuru, Kalu happy and thriving, and the village fully accepting their family, he knew that all the years of hardship had led to this joyous conclusion. The pain of the past had transformed into love, respect, and happiness. Amara smiled, feeling the weight of the years lift from her shoulders. She had endured, she had persevered, and she had remained kind. Now life offered her reward, not in wealth alone but in love, respect, and fulfillment. She understood that the hardships she had faced had made her strong, ready to embrace the responsibilities and joys of her new life as the prince's partner. As the celebration continued into the evening, Amara took a quiet moment to reflect. The village, the prince, her father, and her brother had all played a part in shaping her journey. She had learned that suffering, when met with patience and courage, could lead to outcomes beyond imagination. Her heart swelled with gratitude for her family, for the prince, and for the lessons of life that had guided her to this moment. Amara's marriage to Prince Nuru was more than a union of two people. It was the culmination of years of endurance, courage, and kindness. It was a testament to the strength of character over adversity, the power of patience and integrity, and the rewards that come from remaining true to oneself. The village celebrated not just a wedding, but a story of transformation, hope, and love. From that day forward, Amara lived with her heart full of love and her life full of purpose. She and Prince Nuru ruled their household and contributed to the village with wisdom and care. Kalu grew into a confident and joyful boy, inspired by his sister's courage. The family, once overlooked and judged, now thrived in happiness, respect, and harmony. Amara had endured, she had persevered, and she had finally found a life that honored her strength and spirit. The hardships of the past were not forgotten, but they were no longer burdens. They had shaped Amara into a woman capable of love, leadership, and compassion. In the end, the lie that had caused suffering had also taught her patience, endurance, and the value of a strong heart. And now, standing beside the prince, embraced by her family and respected by the village, she finally found the happiness she had long dreamed of.